Hi guys, welcome to this upload for you guys today. Thank you ever so much for you guys tuning in, and 39 of you have subscribed. I can't thank you enough because I enjoy talking about professional wrestling topics. Now I just want to say before I get off my chest that AEW is actually having a fantastic build towards Forbidden Door. I love the way they've done the Fatal 4-Way last night. Build towards Darby Allin versus John Moxley. I don't mind that match. I love that feud over the years of being an AEW fan. I'm looking forward to seeing that live, as well as obviously the Fatal 4-Way towards the women. There's literally going to Forbidden Door. That's going to be an interesting one for the TBS Championship. Then we've actually got Athena literally teasing towards joining forces with Mercedes Moné. That's an interesting dynamic. I thought they would literally have fallen out, but they're on the sort of the same page as each other. They're sort of teasing towards that after the Fatal 4-Way last night. I find it so interesting. But Athena versus Athena versus Tony Storm. I'm looking forward to it. Forbidden Door. Jesus Christ! All I can say is, other than what we've actually got for the men's, but women's wrestling is dominating right now, and I can't wait to go to Pro Wrestling Eve later the month, the day before Forbidden Door. Obviously, on my vlog channel, I'm putting the vlog out from both, well, technically 3 days. I will be covering that all in one long vlog for you guys to enjoy. But anyway, one thing is I want to get off my chest is that this proves how hypocritical wrestling fans can be. I'm going to be honest with you. I've always been honest with you. And I can't stop being honest with you guys because you guys make me laugh when you try and justify something that how you support Brock Lesnar and all that lot. I've already done a fucking 2 days worth of content on that, over duration, like 80 minutes covering certain things, obviously on the first upload, then obviously give you my thoughts and opinions about the lies of probably WWE, who's brought Brock Lesnar back. Check that out, please do. It's not got that many views, but people do respect me who actually watch that. But I just want to say, amazing turn of events, isn't it, boys and girls? Right? I just want to say this: it doesn't affect me because it affects the American fan base. These are meant to be the loyal fan base that's going to be still watching the product. I know I had controversial comments on Facebook towards obviously my posts when I was sharing it on there. They were saying about how great Brock Lesnar is to come back to the company. I'm one of those not actually that great, will indeed. And they literally said to me, point blank range, they'll say they'll still watch the product, even though Brock Lesnar is still on the product. Because at the end of the day, we enjoy what Brock Lesnar has to offer. From the massive pop to the merch, they're quoting everything but what he gives in the ring, which I find very interesting. With certain people. It really baffles me when people do that sort of thing. You say, oh, look at the crowd. Massive pop they had. Then to the point where literally he's selling shitloads of merchandise, etc., etc., etc. But you didn't say how good he's in the ring. So how could you literally say you're going to defend WWE, you'll watch WWE and all that lot? You didn't quote what he offers to the ring. I'm thinking, okay, fair enough. I'll let you have your say. You're entitled to your opinions, but you're quoting the business side of things, what you're not technically involved with, other than if you buy a piece of merch. I love how WWE are fabricating the numbers and turn around and say, yeah, he's number one seller or something like that, like they've done in the past for many, many years. To throw salt in the wounds. And then these are the same people are now saying, fuck that, I'm not paying $29.99 a month to watch the PLEs or pay-per-views, whatever you want to class them as. And I'm like, I thought you was a Brock Lesnar fan. Oh, stop watching the product. It's outrageous because they've got to put it on different platforms and all this lot. Not being funny, here in the United Kingdom, we had to deal with Sky Sports back in the day. Then it went to TNT. Then it went to Network and TNT. Then it went to, I think it was on Sky Sports as well. Then we had to pay for the pay-per-views. They were £20, if I recall. Rough guess. You know, it's been a long time since I paid for a pay-per-view, other than AEW's, obviously. Because obviously I'm privileged to get it on Netflix here in the United Kingdom. Were they expecting WWE to have the same deal they did with Netflix in USA compared to what we have in the UK? But more to the point, what I'm getting at is, where's your loyal fan base gone? You know, WWE, you're losing your loyal fan base. You know, the people that stick by Brock Lesnar. You know, because how much they say they're much of a fan of his and respect the aspect of it and so on and so on and so on. But now you're dropping like flies when you have to pay more. You know, I understand the frustration. Don't get me wrong, I understand the frustration. You know, it's really hard to understand. As a wrestling fan, you have to pay a bit more for your fandom. It made me laugh when people used to laugh at me when I said about WWE tickets, how ridiculously priced they are. You know, and they're just saying, oh, you just need phone because you're an AEW fanboy. Then as soon as it hit America, you know, the American base towards like WrestleMania and so on like that, saying how expensive it is and all that lot. And I'm like, question your own fandom. The last time I bought a wrestling ticket, it was great value because where I was I was at Clash of the Castle 2022. I was 6 rows behind Tyson Fury. It's in my price bracket at the time. Right? I look at the same seats in that sort of area is near enough 4 times as much sometimes now at PLEs. And God forbid what WrestleMania is. You know, I feel sorry for the people that spend a lot of money on WrestleMania. You know, I feel sorry for the people that paid a lot of money for SummerSlam. You know, but the problem is where it lies. What I'm getting at is, all they want to do is take your money. Yes, they take your money, like all wrestling companies do, but they do not technically listen to you. You know, you don't have your voice. You know, because at the end of the day, I'm a small YouTuber on this channel. I'm a small YouTuber completely to big ones. You know, but I don't brown rose WWE to hoping to get my face on TV screen to promote my product. No, you got to understand this. Where I say wrestling is a business, but when its business aspects could be threatened by a wrestler, that's where I draw the line. You know, because quite honestly, it's mental to think that WWE would have thought bringing him back with obviously everything else that's going off in his personal life. And it's been notified massively. But you can't justify you saying you're a fan of Brock Lesnar if you are literally quoting business side of things. You know? That doesn't justify you being a fan of him. And I feel like that pointing that out. But one thing is I want to actually say, the WWE do not promote younger stars. I've said this for many times. They do not promote that many younger stars. They pick and choose when they want to. Look at your current champions, right? Even though you've actually got someone that's been experienced around the roster and respected, likes of Naomi is a prime example of it. What did they do in the United States? You know, which is I find hard done by for her. She's your women's world champion, and you decide to put a commercial ad break over her promo time. That's where I draw the line. You know, stuff like that. You know, all they do is pretty much advertise its commercials. Yeah, that saturates the product. That destroys Saturday Night Main Event. You've already seen a video. What would improve it is to stop doing the commercial ad breaks. You know? The sponsorship between matches is really tedious. So, what I'm saying to you guys is, for them to sign with ESPN to bring the PLEs is dumbfounding for me. You know? Because you're saying a giant FU to your loyal fan base in the United States. You know, and the price you are charging them, I'll say this, with the current climate at the moment, that is a ridiculous amount. $29.99 is a ridiculous amount. And I'm sticking with the people that I know full well are pissed off to the point where they're not going to tune in. You're already ruffled feathers already with the likes of Brock Lesnar coming back. Now you've ruffled their feathers even more not to fucking have any time for the company. You know? I'm not saying this in a bad light, but you look at the likes of AEW. They are providing for the fan base. You know, they are listening to the fans. What's working, what's not, and that's what does. You know? And quite honestly, that's why I like AEW, because they respect the athletes that does the wrestling for our entertainment. You know? You look at John Moxley, right? He's in the Death Riders. People say, oh my god, he's so shit. And all this lot. He's terrible since he's been in the Death Riders, but you still want him back when he goes back, if he went back to WWE as Dean Ambrose, wouldn't you? But you got to think, when you look at the prime example last night, even though he's an experienced veteran now of the wrestling circuit, he gives back to the young stars. This is what I like about AEW, what John Moxley has to offer, let alone you look at Speedball Mike Bailey, right? He had a clinical match with him. So, you know, they're giving back. The people that have been around AEW for a while, they're giving back to the young stars. If they didn't have any problems at all, look at the longest winning ROH Women's Champion. Over 1,000 days now. Athena. Looks like she's fucking teaming up with the likes of fucking, what do you call it? Mercedes Moné. Shasha Banks, whatever you want to class her as. You know? That's another swerve that I didn't see technically coming. Swerve Strickland pushed to the stratosphere. You know? Fantastic young kid when I knew it. You know? Making it, when he's literally making his way in the business. You know? That's the thing is. That's what I like. They're not afraid to give away, right? You just think when WWE last tried to do that, when Vince McMahon was in power, you've got to think, right? When Vince was in power, he was making Austin Theory his next big thing. And look what they've done with him now. It looks like he's removed from the roster. It looks like he's the next one to be released. You know, it just really frustrates me because you want people to back certain wrestlers. You look at Tyler Bate and Pete Dunne, how much they were thrown down our throats left, right, and centre before NXT UK started. Then NXT UK started. Then you put them to the main roster after a run in NXT in America, and then you do fuck all with them. You know? The most weirdest thing, by the looks of it, you're basically putting Pete Dunne now in fucking Grand Americano. Third one. Who thought that idea? This is where you waste talent, you know? But this is what I love about what AEW has to give. You know? You look at Mark Briscoe, prime example. I've never thought in a million years I would like him as a singles wrestler. I preferred him when he was with Jay Briscoe, when he was alive. No disrespect, I'm not speaking ill of the deaf. You know, I always thought they would be good as a tag team. And you couldn't split them up. You could never do it. But he's grown on me. Massively. You know, I respect him. You know, but there will always be the Briscoes. Even though Mark Briscoe's a fantastic what he's doing. You know? Hangman Adam Page, would you have thought he'd be a world champion if he was like in the likes of WWE? No. You know, I love the way they're doing certain things. You know, they are doing waves. But all WWE seems to do is stab their fans in the back. But once it gets negative response to a point, you know, you think, okay, fair enough, it's good. This is to WWE fans think Brock Lesnar's great. But you think Brock Lesnar's, how to put it, oh my God, you made a shocker, a massive swerve. They listen to the fans, etc. like that. But then you got to think this logically. Then all of a sudden you make another announcement that has tarnished your fan base and upset your fan base. That's just me being honest. You've really upset your fan base. But no, they'll brush it off. They'll still watch SmackDown coming this week because Brock Lesnar's back, apparently, on SmackDown. I'm not being funny. He's never spoke. He's not going to speak because he ain't got the advocate that what he once had is in Paula Heyman. So it's going to be a mess of his return. But it is what it is, guys. I'm not here to judge, but I just want to say this. Choose your promotions wisely if you want to get into professional wrestling, if you've watched this and thought, okay. But I'm just saying this. You are screwing your fans out of more money. And who's going to... The worst thing is about it is, it's bad enough they're already putting bundles on tickets and then sell them separately at a later date for more higher price. And you can blame Ticketmaster or whatever you want, Triple H. But all I'm saying is this. It's shocking behaviour what you guys have done for your wrestling fan base, your loyal fan base. You know, I've seen numerous of people say they miss the WWE Network. I do as well when it was good. You know, the product was a lot better without Brock Lesnar. You know, because it weren't him being the main focus point. You know, because at the end of the day, you got to think when Brock Lesnar was around, people were shitting on him in the first place. You know, how dare he beat Undertaker's streak? How dare he made Randy Orton bleed heavily? You know, that's not called for. That's gone too far. Oh, he's never defending his title. He comes and goes when he wants. You know, he almost killed Undertaker, if you remember rightly, or you guys raised that from your memory. There's a list of things I can say, apart from his personal life, what everyone knows about, but seems to rush it under the rug, as the old saying goes. You know, there's a lot of people speaking out over it. You know? It is what it is, guys, but WWE just wants to rip off the fans even more. You know? It's bad enough when I said earlier on about them planning to do more PLEs 2 nights. How much saturation do they want of the product to keep in business? Let alone when you look at the likes of AEW, with their business side of things and their platforms, they don't oversaturate the market. They've only got 2 shows a week. They don't do house shows. And then they do the PLEs or TV specials. So, I can see people probably jumping ship now. Probably from next year a lot more than they already have. You know, and this is coming from someone that basically was a fan of WWE from little to now. I grow older, I've been wiser, you know. And when people say you shouldn't allow the personal life affect your wrestling fandom, it does. Because at the end of the day, I'm a passionate wrestling fan that people understand. And that's why 39 of you have already subscribed. I can't believe I'm at 39. You know, a short space of running this channel this year. You know, I love everyone that does respect my opinion, and I respect their opinions, but you got to realise that wrestling is getting an expensive hobby. It's hardest to... The weird thing is, right, everyone gets selfish and always think about themselves, granted. But imagine people that have to buy tickets for, like, families, you know, let alone you've got your kids into this, right? I'm just saying if there's kids in the family, male or female, mothers or fathers, if they watch the product and then they got the kids into it, and then you say, sorry, from next year we can't watch any more PLEs because it's on a different provider. Imagine how heartbroken that is. So now you're forcing fans to part away with more money that they can't afford at the moment. You know, I know it sounds daft, but Netflix here in the United Kingdom on my Virgin Media that I've got is to do my package that I have on my provider. And that's just me being honest with you. So that's what I mean. It's just mental, just to think, and a mental block that you think, okay, we're privileged here in the United Kingdom, but we literally suffer with the ticket prices far superior than what you do in the United States. And then they started to hit the United States now with the pricing. But that's what I mean. It's like I'm not just thinking of my benefit. I'm just thinking how powerful the internet is now. And then when kids are so obsessed with the internet, more than I am, and they Google and they find out these allegations against Brock, do you think how devastated that young fan is? You know, because they've done that. If they wanted to look on Google, oh, wait a minute, that's not like Triple H when he didn't want to put China in the Hall of Fame. Hey, Junior. That's my cat. Who's that? Who's that? But yeah, that's what I mean. That sort of thing. That's why I feel like it's going to be tarnishing the WWE. That's why I did it. You know, because at the end of the day, it's going to tarnish what they've tried to build up as their empire. I think it's doing more harm than good. You know, over duration of time, and we give it benefit of the doubt, and that's just me being honest to every single one of you guys. That's why I did that video. If you can't take that, fine. But it is what it is. I've got it out there. I'm not deleting it. It's my content. But that's just my thoughts and opinions. Tell me yours.